80 years ago, on February 20th, 1939, 20,000 people attended what was, for all intents and purposes, a Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden. In 2017, I did a story that took place on that night, and I am re-releasing it here both to mark that anniversary and to let it play out again at a time when anti-Semitic and white supremacist violence and speech are on the rise. I'm also re-releasing it because I think that what often happens with Memory Palace episodes is some of you will listen to it and then want to go and learn more, and who can blame you? And so today, we are going to do that. It's the first time we've done this, and I'm excited about it. Immediately following this episode, the year Hank Greenberg hit 58 home runs, I'm going to play a new story about that rally produced by my dear friends at Radio Diaries. A little 1-2 punch, as it were. You can subscribe to their podcast. You can find out even more about the rally and the events of 80 years ago. And you can listen to literally 2 decades worth of some of the greatest audio stories ever produced at radiodiaries.org. This is The Memory Palace. I'm Nate DiMeo. The year Hank Greenberg hit 58 homers to lead the major leagues, he batted .315, scored 143 runs, drove in 147, and had an OPS of 1.122, if that means anything to you. If it doesn't, just know that it's very, very good. He meant something close to everything to Jewish Americans, like Joe DiMaggio with Italian Americans, but more so. Hank Greenberg was the Hebrew Hammer. Despite suffering all sorts of anti-Semitic prejudice and abuse, he never ran away from his identity, even when people freaked out when his Detroit Tigers lost a game when he set out for Yom Kippur. And every Jewish kid poring over the box score in the Cleveland Plain Dealer while pouring milk over their morning cereal. And all the old-timers shouting about baseball and Yiddish over the squealing brakes of the elevated trains on Canal Street knew the only reason Hank Greenberg led the league in walks that same year was because no one would give him anything to hit. Because no one wanted a Jew to break Babe Ruth's home run record. The year Hank Greenberg hit 58 homers, there was another Jewish hero known for his own astounding athletic feats, though his fame didn't extend much beyond New York. But if you grew up in a cold water flat in Flatbush or remembered waking up to the sounds of guys selling pickles and schmata outside your tenement window on Rivington, you knew the mighty Adam. The beginning of his story wasn't all that different from your own. He was born Joseph Greenstein in Poland. He had come to America fleeing a pogrom, found work where he could, which in his case turned out to be Galveston, Texas, in the oil fields. And that's where his story, it starts to differentiate a touch from the standard tale of Jewish European migration in the early 20th century. His boss became obsessed with his wife, Leah, and wanted to get Greenstein out of the picture. So he shot him, at 10 paces, right between the eyebrows. And it did not kill him. Not only did it not kill him, the bullet, it smushed. The doctors went in to retrieve it and found the bullet right under his skin, flattened against his skull. And Joseph Greenstein, a little guy, barely 5'4", gifted with an apparently preternaturally hard head, found a calling. He hit the vaudeville circuit, told his story in tents and fields and small towns, let kids touch his scar, and he built out his act by building up his body. He became the mighty Adam, a strong man, a compact package with remarkable power, who drove nails through wood with his fists, bent straight metal rods into heart shapes, who broke chains with his bare hands, and who among us would deny his fans the metaphorical pleasures of watching a fellow Jew break chains with his bare hands? And in 1938, the year Hank Greenberg hit 58 home runs and walked 119 times, the mighty Adam was packing them in theaters all over New York. That year, when pitchers started walking Hank Greenberg over and over, as he got closer and closer to beating Babe Ruth's record, so he fell 3 short. The Nazis annexed Austria. German Jews were forced to register their assets, then their businesses. Then they were forbidden to practice medicine, and then law. Then they were forced to get ID cards and present them on request, then have their passports stamped with a red J. Then the Nazis burned the synagogue at Nuremberg. Hank Greenberg went 2 for 5 that day. Then Jews of Polish descent were exiled from Germany right as baseball season ended. And then 1,000 synagogues were set on fire on Kristallnacht, and 76 were destroyed, as were more than 7,000 Jewish-owned businesses and Jewish homes, and more than 100 Jewish people were killed, and 30,000 were arrested and sent off to concentration camps, and those who remained were expelled from school and stripped of their businesses and their property as winter came. The year that Hank Greenberg had one of baseball's greatest seasons while people shouted "Dirty Jew" and "Kike" at him from the stands. Membership in the German-American Bund was on the rise. 25,000 German Americans, dedicated to extending Hitler's vision of anti-Semitism and the master race to the United States. 8,000 of them uniformed stormtroopers. And there was Father Coughlin, a radio preacher with an audience in the many millions, who had spent most of the 30s keeping his anti-Semitism coded, keeping it to dog whistles and whispers about Roosevelt and the banks. But in the year Hank Greenberg came in third in MVP voting, he stopped holding back, writing about the Jewish conspiracy controlling the world, and praising Hitler and German atrocities on the radio. And as that year turned to the next, and the nights were long, and winter didn't seem to end, and Hank Greenberg's remarkable summer was a dream half remembered, and the Nazis passed a law that forced Jews to turn over everything made of gold and silver: arcs, menorahs, wedding rings, lovers' lockets. The German-American Bund held a rally in Madison Square Garden. Swastikas and American flags, the Nazi eagle and George Washington, the red, white, and blue and the red and black, and banners hung from the rafters like retired jerseys, and 22,000 people in the audience, Americans, right there in Midtown Manhattan, with their right arms extended in the Nazi salute. While there was another American just outside. The Mighty Atom was in Midtown, too. He'd performed nearby earlier that day, pounded some nails with his fists, broke some chains. And the story goes that he saw a sign hanging high in the wall of the arena, a slogan too familiar, and on that night just too much. No dogs or Jews allowed. And so he went across the street to a hardware store, slapped some cash on the counter, and left with a ladder and a bat. And he hefted the 3-story ladder across 33rd Street, propped it up against the wall, and climbed, and started ripping down the sign. And a security guard, swastika on his armband, and shouted for help. And by the time the Mighty Atom got back to the street, the torn sign flapping above him, 20 Nazis surrounded him, looking for a fight. So the Mighty Atom gave.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Christian Americans, it's my very great privilege to welcome you.
Madison Square Garden was the big arena in New York at the time. Hockey games, boxing matches. The week before the rally, there was the Westminster Dog Show. My name is Arnie Bernstein. I'm a historian and author of the book Swastika Nation.
Audience, attention! I pledge allegiance.
The rally opened with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America.
20,000 people strong stood up, held their hands aloft in the Nazi salute, and said the pledge to the American flag.
With liberty and justice for all.
Tailors, businessmen, blue collar, white collar, they came wearing their Nazi armbands and having pennants in their hands. It looked like any kind of political rally, only with a Nazi twist.
Fund members, our boys and girls, fellow white Americans, and other non-parasitic guests.
The rally was explicitly anti-Semitic. They demand a white Gentile America. They denounced Roosevelt as Rosenfeld, to say that Roosevelt was in the pocket of the rich Jews. My name is Sarah Churchwell. I'm a cultural historian and the author of Behold America.
The spirit which opened the West and built our country was the spirit of the militant white man.
One of the speakers was Gerhard Wilhelm Kunz, who was the public relations director for the Bund, and he gave an explicitly white supremacist vision of America.
American lawmakers generations ago promulgated laws forbidding intermarriage between white and black, yellow, brown, and red inhabitants. We have Jim Crow laws and a complicated system of immigration quotas. It has then always been very much American to protect the Aryan character of this nation.
One of the things that they tried to do was to say that basically this is what America has always been, and that this is what the Founding Fathers would have supported.
We are not preaching race hatred, but race recognition and the will to the preservation of our own race.
My name is Brett Siciliano, and my grandfather was at the Nazi rally. He was a 26-year-old plumber. His name was Isidore Greenbaum. He felt it was his duty as an American, as a Jew, and as a curious New Yorker to go assess the situation. And he snuck into the rally.
The only ever homeless parasite is the Jew.
He was in the very, very back, and he sat there. He listened, and I believe the rallies for about 3 hours long.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Fritz Kuhn.
The pinnacle of the night was the last speaker of the evening, Fritz Kuhn.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, you all have heard of me through the Jewish-controlled press.
Kuhn was the leader of the German-American Bund, and in essence, he wanted to be the Hitler of America.
Wake up, you Aryans, Nordics, and Christians, to demand that our government shall be returned to the American people who founded it.
My grandpa watched 20,000 people cheering, raising their hands, saluting this man in the Heil Hitler salute. And he was just amazed. And so he slowly worked his way to the front. I remember him telling me that there was one thing that Kuhn said about the Jews and how they're like cockroaches, and my grandfather said he lost it.
The departments are swarming with Jews.
My grandpa just muscled his way through the guards that were up front, jumped up on the stage, and he yelled, "Down with Hitler." A bunch of the guards, the security, jumped on my grandfather. They started punching and kicking him, pawing at him and pulling his pants down. And they were getting cheers. And the New York police ran from the other side of the stage, and the police pulled my grandfather off to safety.
All right, be seated, please.
He had a black eye and a broken nose, but he said he would have done it again.
That Bund is open to you, provided you are sincere, of good character, of Aryan stock. Join Free America.
When the rally wrapped up, everybody just thrust their arms in the air and joined Kuhn screaming, "Free America, free America."
This rally in February 1939 was really the turning point for the Bund. As soon as the United States entered the war, all of these fascist groups were discredited and disbanded.
The Bund was largely forgotten, but there's something they tapped into that is part of America. We still see elements of it today. They may not be the German-American Bund. You know, the 1978 attempt by Nazis to march in Skokie, the Ku Klux Klan in the 1960s. We saw it at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. 80 years later, the philosophy is still there. And all these groups maintain that they are patriotic Americans. And this is the America that they see.
Radiotopia. From Peabody.